It is Tuesday, my dudes. Same intro from yesterday because I'm trying to be consistent. I'm trying to be consistent in life. Because life isn't consistent. Life is constantly changing. Because, when you basically just sit there and stand still, you're not really living, are you? You're not living. Okay, that's a little creepy. But, how you doing? It's a good Thursday. Still have on a college shirt. Got made fun of at work because apparently we can wear jeans to work, but instead I'm wearing khakis because I just want to wear khakis. I don't know. Who fucking knows? Not me. Anyway, maybe I should talk up. Maybe I should fucking speak louder so you'll be able to fucking hear me. Maybe that'll help. Or maybe I should even fucking describe why I'm even making this video. Because I wanted to talk about science. And science is awesome. But a little deeper into that, I want to kind of separate pop culture science from actual real life science. And I feel like a lot of people are giving shit, just dealing shit out to these pop culture scientists just to give them shit. If you know me, I love me some Neil deGrasse Tyson. He is my boy. I love him. He's awesome. And the way he is able to communicate a subject that is so hard and so difficult to understand, it's nothing short of a miracle. This dude is a god at communicating very complicated things and making it seem simple. Not really simple, but making it to where people, everyday people can just grasp it. A historian can now understand the universe a little better because Neil deGrasse Tyson was able to put it in a way that the common man like me will be able to understand. That's why I love Neil deGrasse Tyson. That's why I love Bill Nye. That's why I love Richard Krause, because they do such amazing work, not really through their actual science, but through communicating. And that's kind of like pop culture science. That's where we get the term pop culture science. It's because these scientists are basically giving these massive lectures, giving off these one-handed, not one-handed, but offhanded remarks, little snapshot answers, and then they have their long answers. But at the end of the day, they get a lot of shit. They really do. Especially when you compare them to really old philosophers and scientists like Albert Einstein. Albert Einstein wasn't a very good communicator. He really wasn't, which is why we are still trying to decipher what his fucking equations mean to the fate of the universe. We're still trying to really break apart the man's work even today. And he did most of that during World War II and just the World War II. Or just before World War II. This man, his work has lasted this long, where we're still working on making it fit within making the universe fit into his equations. So people you can't really compare someone like Albert Einstein to someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson, because I've seen people try to do this and try to throw Bill Nye or Neil under the bus because they're claiming that they're not real scientists. And it's Albert Einstein was kind of a physicist, and Neil deGrasse Tyson is an astrophysicist. So I guess they're kind of related, even though Neil deGrasse Tyson focuses more on space and Albert focuses more on basically physics as a whole. You can't just throw these pop culture scientists under the bus when you compare them to old philosophers, because at the end of the day, these pop culture scientists, they're still fucking scientists, but what they're trying to do is communicate a very complicated subject to just a general audience. So yes, they're not going to cover everything. Yes, they're not going to, go into super detail about the fucking Hawking radiation of a black hole and the super equations that fucking involve that. No, they're not going to do that. Because that's not interesting for the public to hear. It's interesting for the public to hear that, black holes really don't last forever. Even though it was pretty much, I won't say common knowledge, but it was widely believed that black holes just led to another universe or whatever. Just, people need to stop fucking shaming pop culture scientists for their one-off answers, because they are, first off, they're trying to communicate a message. That's basically their first thing. Because when you communicate the message, you are informing the public, and then when the public is actually interested in these and in space, they're interested in physics, they're interested in chemistry, they want to learn more about it. So the public pushes for it. Which means they start voting for people who are more scientifically literate, giving, agencies like NASA a bigger budget. It's when you inform the general public, it kind of benefits society as a whole. When you give the general public the basic knowledge of what happens when a neutron star blows up and dies. It doesn't really seem interesting, but some people really find it fascinating. Like me. Fucking stars blowing up is amazing. The universe is so fucking cool, and I want to learn more about it. So I'm kind of on the boat where we need to kind of fund NASA a little more. But I will never claim myself to be scientifically literate. No freaking way. Even going up through high school, like, science was pretty much one of my worst subjects every single year. I did pretty good in biology, and after that I took chemistry, and I really sucked at that. And then I took physics, and I really sucked at physics. So I'm not scientifically literate at all, but I still have an interest in it because people like Bill Nye and Neil deGrasse Tyson and I just forgot his name, Richard Krauss, are able to communicate science in a way that makes it easy for my stupid brain to understand, my historian brain to understand. And that's basically why they're so popularized, because those are the faces that we see, that the general audience, I say we as in like the general public, people who are not scientists, people who don't sit around all day reading Aristotle or fucking Copernicus. I don't do that. I don't sit around fucking reading Plato all day. I wish I could. I wish I had that kind of time. It'd be awesome. But I don't. So when I say we, I mean like the general audience. So all these pop culture scientists become the voice, become the faces that we recognize as the general public. And that's why they're given such, I don't want to say lofty titles, but they're held to such a high regard because those are the faces that we see. It's not like they don't do real science. Like Neil deGrasse Tyson still does real science. He still has research in astrophysics that he does. I don't necessarily know what Bill Nye. I think Bill Nye is a chemist. Or is he a physicist? I don't remember. Like, they're still doing work in their separate fields. But just because that we don't see their name in like articles all the time doesn't mean that they're fake scientists or that they're just doing this for money. No, they're doing it to increase funding for the projects that they're trying to fund. But they're trying to find out something, so they go out there and they try to explain it to the general public to increase public interest in a field, so it gets more funding. That's why they do it. Ultimately, they do it for money, but they're not the ones that are getting paid. They're not. Yes, they get paid to do it, but that's not their end goal. Their end goal is to increase funding for science. Because you don't get a doctorate in astrophysics just to make money going around preaching it all the time. You get a PhD in astrophysics because you love astrophysics. Like, I could get a PhD in history if I really wanted to, but if I'm not going to go around giving lectures on, why history is amazing just to get money. I want to spread some sort of common knowledge. I want to spread some sort of common goal that I want to put out there. I'm not doing it for money. I'm doing it because I love the subject. And I think that's kind of brushed aside. Because these, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Bill Nye, Richard Krause, they make a lot of money. I'm only mentioning those three because this is the only thing I really remember off the top of my head. Because I'm really tired, and I just, yeah. But those guys who are all pop culture scientists, they do it because they love their subject, and they want to see it expand. They want to see it grow. They want to see people be able to figure out the mysteries that they're trying to solve, or figure out how things work. Because in the end, that's all science is. It's just figuring out how shit works. If that's how my high school teachers told me that's what science was, I probably would have been a scientist or an engineer. Because that shit's hilarious. I just want to figure out how shit works. Boom, done. You got me. I'm gonna be a physicist. Like, that's all it is. And the fact that people think that, I keep saying Neil because he's my favorite. Like, people that keep saying, like, Neil's just doing it for money. He's spreading, like, I guess not complete truths that he's spreading. It's like, yeah, because he can't. Because, one, he doesn't have that kind of time. And two, because it's a detriment to the cause he's trying, to his cause. It's a detriment to it. Because when you go into extreme detail, you start losing people. You start losing interest in the general public. But if you keep giving snappy answers that are catchy and that stick in people's minds, then they're going to spread that. And it's going to spread to their friends. And it's going to spread to their friends. It's like a snowball effect. But if he actually presents on something that he's actually sat there and studied and tried to communicate that to a general audience, then it's not going to stick. Because it would take way too fucking long. I've actually sat there and I've watched his lectures. And they go into extreme fucking detail. And it is still pretty hard for me to understand, like, where he's coming from. Until he starts talking about, like, the history of science. Or periods of time where I've kind of looked into, if it's kind of like history related, I get a better grip of it. But if he's going off on a tangent, like, he knows his shit. He is still a scientist at the end of the day. And I think that we, like, I don't want to say we as in, like, all of us, but, like, I've seen a lot of shit posted about Neil, a lot of shit posted about Bill, a lot of shit posted about Richard, that they don't know what they're talking about. Or they're sugarcoating it to make it easy for the public to consume. It's like, well, that's their fucking job. It's not that they're not real scientists. Like, if I go out and I start giving lectures, and I have a PhD in history, or law, or whatever, I'm gonna go out there. I didn't work my ass off to get a doctorate just to make money giving speeches. There's easier ways to make that kind of money without getting your fucking PhD. Okay, I'm done. I love science, even though it's kind of pop culture science, but I'm trying my very best to understand how the universe works and shit, because, there's some mysteries that I want to solve. I want to see us as a society solve. And I know if we are scientifically literate, we will be greater equipped to solve these mysteries, which is why I want to be a teacher, because I want to inspire kids to just do what they want to do, even if it is be an astrophysicist, or be a nurse, or be a teacher. Okay. I'm done. My stomach is starting to rebel against me because it doesn't like my protein. Okay. I'm gonna go. I'm actually might stream tonight again. I did for a little bit yesterday, but my fucking thing crashed for some stupid fucking reason. So I gotta make sure that it's not gonna do it again, because I really, really, really want to stream this weekend. I really do. Even though Conor McGregor's fight is this weekend, and I want to freaking watch it. Go Conor. I love me some Conor McGregor. Anyway, I'm gonna go. Bless your face. I'm stealing outros from other YouTubers because I gotta watch this shit.